Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Let's Talk ETC. I have our ongoing monthly edition with ETC News, latest ETC News with Anthony and Kevin, otherwise known as Piskel and Kevin Lord. So welcome, both of you.
Hey, Christian.
Hey, Christian. Thanks for having us.
Sure. So a couple of interesting things to get to. So we were talking before the show, so I'll just let you guys jump into it, whatever you want to talk about first.
Yeah, so we were talking about the ever controversial proposal by Vitalik to use Bitcoin Cash, unfortunately, or Ethereum Classic in some manner. So the title of the proposal was Bitcoin Cash, a short-term data availability layer for Ethereum. So they were talking about using Bitcoin Cash, and then at the end they go ahead and speak about another natural alternative, which obviously is Ethereum Classic, but it needs a few of their features that they want added to be compatible enough to actually use it. One of them, I think, was the reduction of call data, and the other one was the Fly client implementation. I don't know too much about those, but I know those are going to be concessions of sort if developers do choose to go down that route. In my opinion, it's a bit of a touchy issue.
Yeah, absolutely.
Did you mean the cost? When you said reduction of call data, you mean the cost of the call data? Is that what you meant to say?
Yeah, the gas cost.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just for anybody listening, since those terms aren't too common nomenclature, call data is basically whenever you call a contract's function, you normally supply it some sort of data, and that has to be stored on the blockchain indefinitely, so that everybody else can see that the transaction executed the same way anybody claims it does, and so that it leads to some blockchain bloat. And then Fly clients are basically kind of like, they're just like clients, and what they sort of do, and they're a bit more advanced in this, but what they generally do is they go and they know a little bit about the chain that they're working with. So then they go and find some nodes and they ask them questions about the chain and see if the nodes respond truthfully. And if they do, then they go and trust those nodes in order to tell them about the full state without having to store it themselves. And that's something that, like, if you're doing cross-chain communication for blockchains, it's one way to get around the need to the rather expensive cost of verifying the full state on chain, which is just prohibitively expensive regardless of blockchain, and particularly costly between Ethereum-based blockchains.
Right. Good. So my two thoughts that come to mind is, first of all, I'm thankful that Vitalik is thinking about Ethereum Classic, that he seems to be have a positive bent towards it, so that's a good thing. Mm-hmm. And then the other thing that comes to mind is just how the scaling issue hasn't been solved yet, that there's even a need to propose these ideas. So I don't know if maybe we need sharding a lot faster, or state channels, payment channels. We've been talking for a long time about using IPFS, interplanetary file system, and then Swarm, but these solutions just don't seem sufficiently ready for prime time to satisfy all the requirements. So that's what I go ahead.
Yeah, they're not. And I would say in general, it's a very bad idea to just have a blockchain used to store a bunch of data that's not even really relevant to that blockchain. Obviously, it's an open permissionless chain, so if people want to transact and put whatever they want in their transactions, they're allowed to within the rules. But I think we should be very cautious about, allowing or making other concessions or changes to allow for other blockchains to use the ETC blockchain more cheaply, or allow people to store data more cheaply, because in my opinion, data on every single blockchain should be more expensive and more costly. And I would say, rather than lowering the cost of something, up it. Or I really wouldn't say that because that's a hard fork, but I would say just reduce the gas limit in general, because if they want, I think Ethereum should go ahead and store their data on Bcash. Bcash seems pretty happy about it too. So go ahead, store all the data there. It won't be around for many more years anyway.
Yeah. I don't know why he didn't say, here, use this new nifty, side chain that I've been working on. That would have been a less controversial comment to say something like that.
I don't know why they don't just add more to Ethereum to just allow more call data to be stored, or more of whatever data it is, because they're saying that there's just some data that they need to store indefinitely that doesn't execute, that you just read it. So I don't understand why not just extend Ethereum and have it be this data just gets read and used for execution occasionally, but isn't I don't know. I don't understand the proposal entirely.
Yeah, it just shows just a lot of open issues regarding scaling that haven't been addressed yet.
Scaling is hard. Scale down. Don't scale everything down. Don't scale everything up before you can scale it up.
Yeah. So, all right. So, Kevin, any other comments about that, or what's the next thing we should talk about?
I think another thing philosophically would be, do you really want one of your former adversaries to use your network in such a way like this? It's not really, it really doesn't benefit the Ethereum Classic network whatsoever. Obviously, adding Fly client and called data gas cost reduction would benefit ETC a little bit, or at least according to Vitalik. But I just don't see how this is overall a benefit to the network, especially since it's a short term. It's a short term goal. It's a short term thing they want to do. It's not going to be there forever. But then again, it is a permissionless network. There's that permissionlessness fallacy at play right now. So I mean, if they choose to use it, they choose to use it. But I'm not really gung-ho about it. I'm very, very reluctant to see anything like this being deployed on ETC just to be used as sort of, for lack of a better word, a garbage dump. So I think Bcash should probably be the way to go.
Yeah.
I think a storage facility might be a more accurate allusion to what this is. But yeah, I'd agree.
Yeah, because I mean,
use it how it is.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to use it. We really can't say yes or no. You can't get our permission to use the Ethereum Classic network. It's just a network. But I don't think developers should be making concessions just for this one, function of them to use it as a short-term data availability layer. So I think, especially if it's going to affect the roadmap that's already been defined, I think it might not be a good idea. I think there's other more sound and more mutually beneficial dynamics that can be put forth by ETC and ETH instead of just being used one way, essentially. The benefit's going one way. It's going to the Ethereum network. It's not going to the ETC network. Yes, the ETC network is probably going to see an increase in transaction data, but other than that, who cares? What good is it going to do? What value does it bring to the network? That's just my opinion, but yeah, I think there could be a lot better ways that these two chains can actually cooperate and coordinate and actually, work together instead of, being used as a dumping landfill.
Exactly.
I think you brought up a good point. I think one of the things you're saying is, yes, we should be open to working together with other chains, including ETH, but it has to be mutually beneficial. We don't just want to accept any deal, right? Just for the sake of having a deal. So
especially for the sake of appeasing one person's proposal. I haven't seen anybody else propose this idea or propose this similar idea, or even piggyback off his idea and say they support it. I've only seen other blockchain projects that now think, hey, you guys can use our network. We're open. We'll take your trash. We'll take your trash. Come to our side.
Right. Yeah. I mean, Digibot and Dash seem pretty gung ho about it, which I don't even understand. But go ahead.
Exactly. But I think there's a lot more positive ways we can. There's a lot more positive, not integrations, but positive ways we can interact with each other. It doesn't need to be this one proposal. There's been a lot of talk and a lot of discussion about how Ethereum Classic can be used as a secure base layer, as a proof of work, smart contract platform with a predictable emission schedule and a monetary policy. So I think more chains like Ethereum can gravitate towards Ethereum Classic because it is just that. It's in its own unique category. And once Ethereum, if they ever move to proof of stake, there's going to be a lot of hashing power out there who are already mining Ethash or may not want to switch or may already have the pool infrastructure set up for Ethereum and Ethereum Classic. And it would be a lot easier for them to go to Ethereum Classic, which would also increase the network security. There's a lot of different ways that these two networks can get along and coordinate with each other and not be so standoffish, and it can be a really positive relationship.
Right.
Well, at least ETC will disagree, right? A lot of ETC people and Bitcoin people in general will actually disagree about these things, and everybody else is like,
saying,
kumbaya, singing these songs, and then they're all trying to quietly backstab each other. I think that's why some people on Ethereum like other people in on the ETC side, because we're not trying to do that. We'll just tell you how it is.
And I think that's just one. I think that issue is just one part of their culture, their corporate culture that they've established from day one. Which has a ton of these large groups like Consensus and Parity and the Ethereum Foundation and all that. And I think that's just comes with the environment. I think it just But Ethereum Classic had the really fortunate was really fortunate to be created in the way it was. Obviously there's other groups like, Tezos. There's one company that developed Tezos. Same with Ethereum. There was the Ethereum Foundation that came out, and, Vitalik, they developed Ethereum. But with Ethereum Classic, who created Ethereum Classic? Can you guys tell me?
Vitalik and the Ethereum Foundation. And then a bunch of poor decisions.
Who picked it up when it was abandoned?
I know. I know what you mean.
Yeah, there was early people that worked on Ethereum Classic.
Yeah, exactly. It's what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah, and for both these types of communities too, like they're both competitive. There's no every community competes with each other when there's a shared pie. But the real difference is when you have this, if you have a culture of niceness versus a culture of, you either have like a passive culture or an aggressive culture, and the passive one just requires so many more games and trying to figure out who's actually doing what, whereas the aggressive culture is much more straightforward and easy to read. And I think there's definitely a benefit to having a more directly aggressive culture in general.
It's way more direct. And we also have the benefit of having a smaller ecosystem. We don't have to we don't have that Moses-driven leadership where everybody's looking towards one person, which on the Ethereum side is Vitalik, to see what he thinks, what he says, how the project's going to move forward. We don't have that. We have just small groups of volunteers and then a few dev teams who make their voices heard, and that's how it works. We're not so big because the larger you get, and Ethereum is insanely large. The larger you get, the harder it is to make changes, and the harder it is to make development changes because you're just too big to move. So I think we have the really big benefit of that, as well as the blockchain characteristics that ETC does possess.
Right. Good. All right. So let's move on. What else do we have?
So why don't we talk about the Senate and Congress hearings on Facebook and their faux cryptocurrency called Libra. I know, Anthony, you actually watched the hearings. Did you watch the hearings, Christian?
No, I haven't.
Okay. So essentially they just brought up one of the guys from Facebook and grilled him for I don't even know how many hours. And they had, I don't know, Anthony, what did you think of their questions? Do you think they were pretty good questions? I know a few of the senators had good questions. They actually knew what they were talking about, but a lot of them didn't seem to.
Yeah, I mean, I only really watched the one with Congress yesterday. I really kind of missed the Senate one, which I need to go back and watch. But as far as Congress goes, I thought that everybody seemed really informed. They all seemed like they probably had some pretty good, smart, young staff that really advised them well. And, they were talking about Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies in ways that are a bit different, essentially using the context of Bitcoin to show how, all money just is relied upon by faith, what that means when it is, the fact that just because the government backs your currency doesn't actually give you much benefit in the long term. Pretty much every single fiat currency eventually runs itself into the ground thanks to our appointed central planners. Yep. And yeah, it was just really well informed, really asked some good questions. You could even see people like Sherman, who's an absolute idiot and made some really stupid comments about 9/11 that really offend me as a native New Yorker. But he knew kind of how funny Zuckbucks were and kind of how funny money is, even though he knew the biggest threat and was that Bitcoin is essentially a threat to sovereign currencies. And a lot of people don't believe that yet.
Or to state.
To state issue currencies. Bitcoin itself, I guess, is a sovereign currency, though I'm not so up to date on my economics. But
no, you're right.
But yeah, that I think is very interesting. They understand the impact of it, and obviously Facebook and Zuckbucks scare them far more than Bitcoin, as it should too, because Facebook and Zuckbucks, as they can easily tell, is essentially controlled oligopoly with probably Zuckerberg as supreme leader, and Bitcoin is not. Bitcoin has no central control, is completely permissionless, and has no supreme leader that can dictate it. So book and Zuckbucks in general presents a much more existential threat to nations in general than any cryptocurrency ever will, because when it comes, it's kind of like gold. Like gold exists and doesn't present any sort of threat to any country in general, because nobody's in complete control of it. It's just mined and traded, whereas Zuckbucks will be completely controlled by an oligopoly at best, and if not a dictator. And yeah, that they're right to be concerned. And I'm really glad that it gets Bitcoin more and more in the public mind, and people looking at it and understanding it, not so much for the price, but kind of for what it gives you. And sorry for ranting.
No, that was good. No, just to be clear. So what you Zuckbucks, you're just saying that jokingly, but it's Libra is the name?
Libra.
Okay, just checking.
Yeah, but I won't ever call it that. It's Zuckerbucks, as in sucker bucks.
Okay.
Exactly. Because there's nothing freeing about Zuckbuck.
So
No.
So it's not really a public blockchain cryptocurrency with in the sense that we all know and love.
It's an ETF. It's a basket of currencies.
Yeah, it's a mutual fund.
Okay. Yeah. And so if Facebook was successful, they would have this. They would be controlling this powerful form of money, and that would give them additional power more than they already have. And so that's why Congress is concerned. Yeah, okay, I can see that.
Yeah, the goal is do what the dollar did to gold. Confiscate everybody's gold, issue or get them to willingly give it over, in this case, issue a bunch of funny money, and then eventually remove that standard. So you could do the same with Zuckbucks. Oh, they're backed by these dollars and a little bit of euros and a little bit of the Japanese yen. And, oh no, now we've reached critical mass. We no longer have to back it by anything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting that they hold a hearing on Libra, but they're okay, or they're more comfortable with Bitcoin and related public cryptocurrency. So that's a good sign.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's just a really, really, really clear distinction that needs to be made, that the Zuckbuck is not a cryptocurrency. By definition, it is not a cryptocurrency. It's not a blockchain. It's just not what they claim to be. Essentially, they're a mutual fund or an ETF masquerading as a cryptocurrency to, obfuscate regulations, which is total, crap.
Yeah, it's the Uber and Airbnb model. Just say you're something else so that you don't have to follow regulations and then try and do it.
Right.
And then with that would just put more pressure on the greater on the honest cryptocurrencies. And I don't think that'd be fair at all. I think that'd be incredibly stupid. But yeah, they're just masquerading as a cryptocurrency when 100%, by definition, it is not. And that was one thing that Meltem was making freaking really clear for them, that it is not a cryptocurrency. And she was one of the few on the panel that was actually saying that, which I couldn't understand why nobody else was, repeating that phrase over and over and over again, because it's not a cryptocurrency. It's just an ETF.
Yeah. Now, one thought that I had is, so there are other mechanisms that try to replace money, like frequent flyer miles that airlines give out. You could think of that kind of as a type of money replacement in a limited sense. And then I think Apple and other companies have these alternative payment systems, and they didn't get a congressional hearing, as far as I know. It's just that because Facebook is so powerful, their version has more potential, and that's why Congress is concerned. Presumably, if the whole world started using frequent flyer miles more and more, Congress would get concerned about that as well.
And I mean, there's it's not just that, it's that the nature of Zuckerbucks are completely different than all these other things. The other things just deal directly in dollars, and I don't think anybody needs a congressional hearing for that. You have rules and regulations that you go and you make sure to sign up for. In most cases, a money services business or whatever. But yeah, that stuff doesn't need a congressional hearing because nobody's trying to skirt the laws there, which is, or to usurp the power of the U.S. dollar, which is probably more powerful than our army, to be honest.
So what do you think, Anthony, since you watched the hearings, do you have any thoughts on how this is all going to play out? Is Libra gonna continue? Are they going to slow them down or what?
They'll probably slow them down. I don't know. I don't
care.
Yeah, I don't care about Zuckerbucks. I don't think they'll be successful.
It's gonna fail.
I think everybody there's very few people that trust Facebook. I think Zuckerbucks might be, if they were able to get around all these regulations and bribe enough people, then they'll probably be able to, incentivize people by saying you get 10% off if you use our funny money and all this crap. But as far as the crazy world domination plans that they seem to have or allude to, I don't think that'll happen. I think Bitcoin will become a sovereign, well-used currency over time. And to your point too, people actually do use non-fiat, precious metal things for as money. I forget where it is, but there's definitely one country where they use what is it? They use the prepaid cell phone cards. Okay. That's a currency because it has some sort of value to everybody, and they can use it for that, or they can trade it. Or if you go to prison, you can use cigarettes as currency. Everybody settles on some sort of generally agreed currency, even if you don't have a government issuing it, because the idea of having a base unit of accounts to solve the need to trade between so many different things just makes intrinsic sense, I guess, to people. So yeah, I don't know, but Bitcoin number one, Bitcoin's going to be a global world currency as far as I'm concerned.
Right. Yeah. Now Facebook is one of the biggest companies in the world. I could imagine Microsoft, Amazon, Apple. I could imagine Google. They could be potentially looking at this, and I could see them wanting to try something like this.
Yeah, you could, especially if Libra proves that it can do it, and you're definitely going to get competitors.
Oh God, yeah. If it takes off, then you're going to have everybody and their brother trying to make another company money. Yeah. So
yeah, it doesn't take off. It's just going to come down to, is it a real cryptocurrency? I think the more time goes on, shit coins that maybe aren't real cryptocurrencies, they're centralized, they don't check all the boxes of what a real blockchain is. I think they'll start to fade away, just like Libra will, just like other projects that could possibly happen, like you guys are saying with Google or any of these other multinational companies. I think people and projects will sooner or later gravitate towards honest blockchain projects like Ethereum Classic or Bitcoin, because there is no central control. There is no, there is no one group controlling what happens with the protocol. There is no one group that can censor, transactions or people's accounts like, you can do on the EOS network, or like you can do with a lot of these other centralized databases that are masquerading as cryptocurrencies. Mm-hmm. So I don't think that is a worry at all. I think sooner or later they're going to be found out for what they really are, which is a cool version of Venmo, So I don't think it's a worry for cryptocurrency in general. I think it could cast a bad shadow on cryptocurrency for a little bit temporarily. People using that stupid narrative that, oh, it's used by criminals and it's used by drug addicts and it's used by this and that, terrorists. It's used by terrorists. So I think all of that will eventually start to fade away. And I think especially with corporate coins, I like to call them, they'll start to fade away as well. So I don't think they're really too big of a worry.
I actually saw earlier on Twitter, let me see if I can find it, but Steve Mnuchin, the
Treasury Secretary.
The Treasury Secretary, that's it. He was saying, how cryptocurrencies are used in crimes, essentially, financial crimes. And Pierre and Nick Carter had actually replied with a couple counter arguments where one had said, and I can't find the tweet right now, but one had said that about 3.6% or 2.7% of GDP had been used in financial crimes. That's in USD, in dollars.
Yeah.
And according to chain analysis that Nick Carter had cited, only 0.18% of all Bitcoin volume had been used in crimes, in dark. I think they were talking about darknet stuff, but yeah, it's pretty crazy because dollars are still way more popular, and even percentage wise are used far, far more in these crimes because they're the most fungible, most untraceable thing out there.
Exactly. Yeah. There's nothing more fungible right now than a dollar bill.
Yeah, and dollars are great. They represent true financial freedom. You need dollars. And so, or a digital version of it.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you just thought of so that would be a good comeback. If anybody says we need to outlaw cryptocurrencies because bad guys use them, then you could say, well, should we outlaw cash then? Because bad guys use cash as well. And
yeah, they also drive on roads and listen to the radio. They watch TV. Like right. They don't care about crime. They just want to control everybody's money and what everybody can spend and do because they're not even evil. They're not even like in lust for power. They've just designed a stupid, shitty system and they need to bail themselves out. And if people can opt out of their stupid, shitty system, then their stupid, shitty system is going to fall apart.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Just like how China introduced capital controls for people with Bitcoin because they don't want people buying Bitcoin, and now they don't know where their money's going. So yeah, governments trying to use those stupid narratives as like tax evasion, terrorist activity, and anything else is just utter nonsense. So yeah. And it doesn't make sense. It's factually inaccurate. They're not alternative facts. Literally, it's factually inaccurate.
Right. Yeah. Right. Good. All right. So let's move on. What else do you have for us?
Let's see here. So one tweet that I inquired about, I think it was last week, I tweeted at Linzhi, who is the ASIC manufacturer out of Shenzhen. They gave a nice little speech at the ETC summit last year, and they were giving us a overview of their new lava snow machine. It's going to be an F-hash ASIC. So they actually responded to me and were able to tell me or tell the account that. Let me pull it up really quick. So they say they are 99% feature implemented, 70% feature tested. Tape out with an announcement hopefully by mid-August. So hopefully by mid-August, we'll have an announcement by them whether or not it's ready to be bought or whether or not they're close or whatnot. But I know their original goal was for July or for the beginning of summer, and that's been pushed back a little bit. But I'm really excited for this. I will love to buy a few of these, and I'm sure a lot of other people would love to buy them also. But
yeah, I'd buy an ETC ASIC.
and from their specifications, so they do have a website now. It's Linzhi Linzhi.io, I believe. Linzhi.
Yeah. Linzhi.io.
Yeah, that's it.
And so did they make some kind of breakthrough that makes their mining rigs better than everything else?
That is proprietary information.
Okay.
I have no idea.
Okay.
I have no clue. But yeah, their specifications are 1400 megahash for 1000 watts per machine. So that's insane right now. If you look at what the Bitmain, I think it's called the E3.
Yeah, I think, and I'm not sure, but I think Bitmain's, M miner E3 isn't a real ASIC. It's probably some stripped down GPU shoved into a box.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah, which can still maybe provide some benefits, but in general, I don't think it's like a real ASIC. Like, I don't think it's been specifically designed too much for ET hash beyond maybe some custom firmware. But yeah. I don't know for sure. That's just what I get when I read the specs.
180 megahash.
Yeah.
Okay.
For 760 watts.
At a price of $2,000.
Really? I see it for 1,100 or almost 1,200 on Bitmain's website.
Okay, so that's their website. I'm looking at a third-party website, gotcha. But yeah, they're charging a really large amount of money, and they released it last July. The price still hasn't gone down to something where I would consider buying, but and it's still taking 800 watts, whereas the Lava Snow ASIC will take 1,000 watts and provide you with a exponential amount of increased hash power. So that's going to be really interesting. I'm going to be really excited to look out and buy one of those.
Now, I have a question for you guys. I've always been curious if somebody was building very good mining rigs, how they decide when to sell, the price to sell, because they could likewise decide to simply go into the mining business themselves.
Yeah, no, that happens a lot. Especially, it's been documented. It's been documented by the folks at Siacoin that Bitmain does do their own mining operations with their own equipment, and then after they've recouped their costs, they'll go ahead and put them on the market. So yeah, that is definitely something that does happen. But as a consumer, we don't know. We can't ever find out unless research like the ones that came out of SIA are available.
Yeah, I've heard stories about that where people will get their Bitmain miners and they'll be full of dust.
Yes, that happened to me. That happened to me.
Oh, really? They should at least clean them out. Like, have some decency.
So yeah, no, everything. The fans were all clean. Everything was clean. But when I was inspecting the boards, they were just covered with dust. So I don't know if they thought that I wouldn't go into the actual machine and look at the boards, but yeah, from the outside it looked like a brand new machine, but on the inside it was different story.
I still wonder how, even after they recoup their cost, how they decide. I mean, why wouldn't they keep running the rigs and keep getting more profit?
At some point, it becomes just diminishing returns.
Okay.
It might just be worth it to sell it.
Exactly. Yeah, because I mean, the more they have on hand, there's a tipping point to where they're not getting enough blocks as they would with fewer rigs. So, yeah. It would make sense to just sell. And I think at that point is when they start selling. But from what I understand, as soon as they recoup their initial investment from the manufacturing, and I'm sure Christy Monahan knows a lot more about this than I do, but I'm sure they recouped their losses and then put them on the market.
Well, I wish I was in the mining rig business. Sounds like a nice business to be.
Oh man, it's sounds like more of a headache business if that's what you're looking for.
Yeah.
I mean, Anthony, weren't at one point the cooperative looking into collaborating with a mining manufacturer or something like that, and it was a real big headache to even go through with it or
for defensive mining, and then it's a big headache, and beyond nice hash, it's kind of hard to rent hash rate from people.
There's a lot more behind the scenes than people actually know. So yeah, it's I don't know. Personally, I wouldn't get involved in it. There's just way too many different moving parts. But yeah, it's highly profitable.
Sounds good. Okay. All right. So we've covered Vitalik's proposal, the Libra Facebook hearings, the lava snow mining rigs. Anything else?
Yeah. So let's see. I want to go over the Atlantis hard fork. That's going to be coming up in mid-September. Block 8.772 on the Ethereum Classic mainnet. And it's going to be adding a ton of new features that are going to be really, really cool and add a lot new functionality to the ETC network. So yay. And we got the ETC Summit coming up in October. You can buy your tickets now while supplies last, or you can buy your ticket with ETC. If you want to buy it with ETC, that's Ethereum Classic, please contact Bob Somerville and get your ticket through him. But we are
I still have to buy my ticket.
Yeah, we're not. Oh, I don't think you should have to buy a ticket, right? If you're speaking.
Oh wait, I'm speaking. Okay, I still have to buy my plane ticket.
Oh yeah.
Oh, and just to be clear, you meant for the people that didn't get that, it's block 8,772,000.
Yes, okay. That's it.
Okay.
So yeah, that's happening. There was a lot of back and forth with block dates and rushing the block original deployment date to some crazy date in July. That all got hashed out, and ETC Labs actually compromised and actually extended the date to which they wanted, which was on a Sunday, which made it 8.772. So that was a nice little concession they made. They moved it
to like a Tuesday, right? So that everybody would be, because they don't want it on Sunday.
Oh, that was.
I mean, nobody wants it on Sunday.
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a little bit of a headache and some unnecessary drama, but we made it through, and I think we've demonstrated how much more resilient Ethereum Classic community, or I don't like using the word community, the Ethereum Classic network participants are. It doesn't work if you're trying to strong arm a feature, or strong arm a deployment date, or a hard fork, or if you're going to threaten to hard fork, or if you're going to threaten to do your own thing and take the ETC name with it, it's just not going to work. So that was one thing that was one little lesson we all learned, and so yeah, now it's deploying in September, which is a very safe date. Hopefully, we can get all the clients, including Mantis, set up before then. I know right now every other client is upgraded for it. So yeah, that's the hard fork coming in September, Atlantis. Anthony, do you know what the next one is? Is that Agartha?
I think so. I haven't kept up with that.
So yeah, the next one's going to be Agartha. We're sort of adopting some of that cool names that Ethereum likes to give their hard forks, but we're going to take a slightly different route. But yeah, so yeah, those are coming up, and then we have the summit coming up. And like I said, if you want to get your ticket for the summit, we are accepting only Ethereum Classic, no shit coins, just Ethereum Classic. I'd like to make the distinction between Ethereum Classic as an altcoin and a lot of these other ERC20s and clones as shitcoins. So we are accepting ETC and your credit card if you want to use it. But
what about Bitcoin?
What about Libra?
Bitcoin right now, I'm not sure. You probably have to the same thing. You might have to contact Bob. I don't see why not. Bitcoin is definitely not a shitcoin. So yeah, I don't know. I can't speak. I can't validate that because I'm not part of the cooperative. But I know for sure Ethereum Classic.
Okay, sounds good. All right. So did we? Did I forget anything? Did we forget anything or anything else you want to add before we close?
Yeah. So looks like 25. Yesterday there was a new release for the famous Emerald wallet. For those of us who have been around for a while, Emerald wallet was the first Ethereum Classic wallet, or desktop wallet, that was developed by an internal team. Since then, they've sort of broken off and done their own thing, and now they're pursuing integrating other networks. But the Emerald wallet is still fully functional. They're just adding more stuff to it. They're making it better. I've heard they wanted to add Bitcoin support and a few other cool networks, no shit coins. So yeah, that was released yesterday. So
all right, good to know.
Emerald is still around.
All right, Anthony. Anything else?
No, that's mostly it. It's all good for me.
Nope, sounds good. Everything.
All right, very good. Well, thank you both of you for joining me. I always enjoy talking to you guys. You always have good things to say, good discussions. So until next time, take care.
Yeah, thanks, Christian.
Cool. Thanks, Christian.
Hey, bye.